Hey everyone, welcome to another video. In this video, we will discuss about recession, something that we've been now hearing on a daily basis. The objective of the video would be to explain what recession is in simple words. But before we do that, let us first try and understand the technical definition of the word recession. Well, recession happens when the GDP of the last two successive quarters is below zero or indicates negative growth. As you can see in this graph, for both the quarters, GDP is coming down or it is below zero. And that is when recession happens. Now, once recession kicks in, let us see what all happens. Well, as discussed before, the GDP of the last two quarters become negative or indicate negative growth. Once that happens, the economy of the country starts facing problems and it goes down. Once that happens, the businesses, of course, they'll face issues and they will try and lay off a lot of people, and therefore unemployment kicks in because for them payroll cost is a major element in their profit and loss statement. Once people start losing their jobs, they'll have low cash in their hands, and when they have low cash in their hands, they are not able to buy the products and services offered by these businesses, and therefore the revenue of these businesses start dwindling, because of which the government is not able to get their share of revenue from these businesses. So what starts from the economy of the country falling here ends with the economy of the country falling here as well. Now, this, in other words, is the vicious cycle, and this is exactly what happens in a cycle when recession starts. Now, US is taken to be the yardstick or the benchmark for most of the countries, in fact, for the entire world. But the unfortunate part here is that recession has started in the US. As you can see in this particular graph, for Q1 of the calendar year 2022, the GDP percentage has gone below zero. Similarly, for Q2 as well, the decline is not that much, but still it is below 0%. And since the GDP of the last two successive quarters of US have shown negative growth, recession has started in the US. Let us see what is happening in the current scenario. COVID-19 had sort of crippled the entire world by the early 2020s, because of which there was a global crisis. The government stepped in to save the respective countries and their businesses, and therefore central banks in each country reduced the interest rates here, otherwise known as repo rates. Repo rates are those interest rates which are charged by the central banks on normal banks when they borrow money from the central bank and in turn lend or borrow this to the end borrower, you and me, the consumer. So when the central banks reduced these rates, the benefit of the reduced interest rates fell on the borrowers, and therefore by 2021-22, mid 2021-22, the markets revived. It in fact flourished because these people intended to buy more products and avail more services. Demand was high, but still COVID-19 was prevalent, therefore supply was less, and then started inflation to cater to that extra demand. Of course, the prices of goods went up, and to control inflation, central banks again stepped in and they in turn increased the interest rates or the repo rates. And now the burden of the increased interest rates fell on the end borrower or the consumer like you and me, because of which we had to reduce our normal consumption. When the normal consumption went down, we stopped buying a lot of goods and services, and therefore GDP of the country, which is basically the monetary value of goods and services, declined. In fact, this happens if this happens for two successive quarters, then you can say that recession has started. Let's try and find out the root causes for recession. Well, first and foremost is definitely the fear or the confidence of the people. Because you hear about a recession in your neighboring country, you think the same thing is coming to your country as well, and therefore you withdraw from buying a lot of goods and services, which in fact could be a root cause for recession as well. Inflation, definitely when you hear about increasing prices because of soaring demand and inflation, it is something that should be controlled by the government, and this could be a root cause for a recession as well. Interest rates, when the central banks step in to decrease interest rates, they are trying to control the economy, and this further indicates that recession is not far behind. Well, the fact here is that recession is very normal. In fact, up to 2007, there were 120 plus recession cycles all across the world, and therefore every country is bound to go through a recession cycle or recession phase. But it depends on how long you are able to sustain and when you're able to get out from this vicious cycle. So therefore government should definitely come out with some interesting schemes, employment opportunities, subsidy schemes, controlling the interest rate, etc., which will probably take out the country from the recession phase and move it to a booming phase. Why do we have to care about recession? Well, there could be a lot of consequences because of recession, but the major ones are unemployment and investment value. Well, unemployment because, as I said before, companies start laying off people, their jobs, and therefore job security becomes questionable in a recession phase. Investment value because all your short-term and long-term investments will only deplete when recession happens because the market will be down. But a suggestion here would be to have some extra funds, excess funds, and then invest when the market is actually going down because that's a time when you can get stocks at a cheaper rate and then invest. In the case of India, fortunately, the GDP in the last two successive quarters have not shown a negative growth. It has only gone up. The companies have shown good results in the last few quarters, and that is quite evident from their annual reports. Imports, India being a major importer of crude oil, the price of crude oil has come down or will come down, and therefore imports have become much cheaper. So these factors, in addition to many other factors, indicate that recession has not yet hit India. I hope I was able to make things clear through this particular short video. If you like the video, please do show your support to us by hitting the like and subscribe button. Like I mentioned before, it is quite important for us to understand these technical words in a very simple manner. And I hope I was able to achieve that through this particular video. So thank you and have a great day.